Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a game that was originally released in 1992 but has been re-released in a spruced up, redone version known as Silvermine. This is coming from Korean publisher Playt Games, and it is a roll and move game, which is not something that you generally see in modern games. And again, this is an older design. Does this game still hold up? What does it bring to the modern gaming table? Well, let's head over and I'll show you how the game works, and then come back here and I'll let you know what I think. Alright, here we see a game of Silvermine set up. We have this, for our example, as a 4-player game, although you can play up to 6, 2 to 6 player game. Each player is going to start with their miner, one of these pitfall tokens, 2 gold nuggets, and 10 silver nuggets. The gold nuggets are worth 10 and the silver nuggets are worth 1, so effectively 30 currency, I suppose you would say there, for each player. You're also going to have a number of dice equal to the number of players, so in this case 4. Here you've got your game board, and the box bottom is used as what they call the kitty, which you place near the silver mine. At the beginning of the game, everyone would roll a die, and it's a 6-sided die that goes from 1 to 5 with also a 0 value there. And you would roll it. Whoever had the highest value, it would be placing their miner on the board first. So you can see there are 3 distinct areas of the board. You've got Alex Coast here, Mine Forest, and Dragon Hill. The silver mine is here, and you can place your miner at the beginning of the round anywhere you want. So let's say that this was just the order that it was rolled, and blue would place first. They could place right next to the silver mine if they wanted to, although in this case, you'd want to be last to the silver mine. So I don't think that that would be a terrific move. Let's say that instead the blue player went ahead and placed here, midway through Alex Coast. Then red could place, and maybe they would be thinking, well, I'm going to get a little bit more risky. I'm going to go right up here. Green player is going to go all the way to the back because they're a little bit afraid. And the yellow player says, you know what, I'm going to stack right on top of the blue player. In this case, the yellow player being on top is considered to be closer to the silver mine, and you'll see how that will play out in a moment. As a matter of fact, at the beginning of a round is the only time you'll have 2 miners that start on the same space. Okay, so on your turn, what's going to happen is that the player that is closest to the mine is going to place this little shadow token to denote that they're the player that is closest to the mine, and they're going to be going first. And essentially what you do is you roll a number of dice according to the position that you were in at the beginning of your turn. So the red player being in first place is only going to be rolling 1 die. The yellow player, again being considered closest, would be the second player. They would roll 2 dice. The blue player would roll 3 dice, and the green player would roll all 4 dice. And again, your goal at the end of the round is to be the last person out here on the board. Everyone else has gotten to the silver mine. If you're the last person on the board, you're going to get whatever gold and or silver that is in the kitty. All right? So what the red player would do is they have to roll at least 1 die, so they would roll that die. So they get a 1. They would go ahead and move forward 1, and they'd move that shadow with them. Now the yellow player is going to, as I told you, roll 2 dice. But there's a couple of things that they can do. First, if they want to roll less dice, they can consult this chart here, and in the first round, if they want to roll 1 less die, they could spend 1 silver to the kitty. You always have to roll at least 1, so they couldn't spend the 3 silver to get rid of both. You always have to roll at least 1, so let's say they did that. Let's say that the yellow player wants to roll 1 die instead of 2, so they take their silver and they throw it into the kitty, and instead of rolling those 2 dice, they would roll 1. Hey, look at that, that worked out great for them. They don't have to move at all. Blue player is now rolling 3 dice. Maybe they don't want to spend this silver just yet, and they roll. That's not great for them, that's 10, all right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right? Now, the green player is not wanting to roll a bunch of dice. Let's say that they want to roll only 1. They would spend 6, 2, 4, 6. They'd go ahead and throw that in there, and they're only rolling 1. They move 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say that on a future turn, that they would roll in such a situation where they would get in the same spot as somebody else. Let's say that later on, maybe red rolled 1, and they are now on top of the blue player. Again, at the start of a round, you can do that without any issue. But once the round has started, you cannot be in the same spot as somebody else. So what you would have to do in that case, if you share a spot with another player, or land on a spot with another player, you have to pay a silver to that player, and then you would roll again. All right, you would roll 1 die. So in this case, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The blue player would have paid them that silver, but they would have to move. You can't stay on top of them. All right? Another thing that you can do on a turn, there's a couple of other things you can do, is that you can make a financial incentive. So if you want to offer a certain amount of gold and or silver to another player before they take their roll to add 1 or more dice, you're willing to make that, you're welcome to make that offer. You can say like, hey, I'll pay you 10 silver nuggets to roll an extra die this turn. They can choose to take that or not. These pitfalls I have not mentioned yet, but at the beginning of any player's turn, this doesn't have to be at the beginning of your turn, you can place this pitfall token out. So let's say, for example, one of the players had placed a pitfall token here. If you land on a spot with a pitfall token, you have to roll again. And the number of dice you have to roll depends on which area of the board you're on. So here in Alex Coast, if you landed on that pitfall, you'd have to roll another 3 dice and move forward accordingly. Here in the Mine Forest, it's 2, and in Dragon Hill, it's 1. So let's say, for example, that we're a little bit further on in the round here. Players have been moving forward, and the red player is in this spot. And let's say they rolled a 2 or higher. There you go. Let's say they rolled a 3, okay? So now they're in the mine. They would have to pay a particular amount depending on the round here. The first player that goes in there would spend 1 into the kitty. And then let's say that yellow went in next. They would have to spend 2 into the kitty. Let's say that we gotten a little bit closer here, but eventually, yes, green is the last player on. Blue would have had to spend 3. And then the last player left is green. They're going to get everything that's in the kitty. All right. And then they're going to reset for the next round. Okay. And it's going to, the placement is going to be going in reverse order. Okay. So once the player who was the one left on the board gets all of the nuggets in the kitty, you set up for the next round. And that's going to be determined by the order of arrival at the mine. The last player is going to be the first one to place on the board for the next round, and then in descending order, you would place after that. So in this case, the first one that arrived red will be the last one to place their token on the board for the next round. Then you're going to have what's called inflation, where the costs to buy out of dice and the costs to enter the mine are going to increase. So in the second round, they double, third round, they triple, etc., into the fourth and fifth round. You will continue to play this way until one of 2 things happens. Either at the end of the 5th round, you will just determine who has the most nuggets. At that point, they will win. Or in any round in which a player ends with no nuggets, the game is immediately over at that point, and then you also determine who has the most nuggets to win the game. There are some slight variations for a 2- and 3-player game. In a 2-player game, each player is going to control 2 miners, and they'll have a different distribution of gold and silver nuggets. And in 3-player game, it's essentially just a different number of nuggets that you'll start with, and they'll use up to 6 dice. All right, well, that is Silver Mine. Let's head back over, and I'll let you know what I think. All right, well, I think that gives you a good idea on the basics of Silver Mine. It's not a terribly complicated game. It has a lot of the hallmarks of a game released many, many years ago. Simpler rule set and the core mechanism of roll and move, which is something that is almost a pejorative term in board gaming now. It's not something that you tend to see in modern hobby board games. And so the first thing I actually want to talk about in this review is art and components, because I think that's especially important in a game where it is a re-release, because oftentimes the reason why a game may get re-released after many, many years is in an upgrade to art and components. And so I've not actually seen older editions of this game in the wild, so to speak, but I've looked at pictures online. And from what I can see, this is a significant upgrade over earlier versions when it comes to art and components. I'm absolutely charmed by the look of the game. It's bright and vibrant. While still being in a small box, the board is very easy to use and read, and up to a 6-player game, there's no crowding on the board. I appreciate that they put right there on the game board the costs of buyout and the cost to enter the mine. I thought that that was a nice touch. It makes it so that everybody there at the board can use it. The little touch of using the bottom of the box as the kitty is a small touch, but a very nice one. The components, I think, are very, very good. The wooden tokens, the cardboard is good quality, the dice are nice. The one little thing that I would mention is that the gold nuggets and the silver nuggets, depending upon the lighting in the room, can be a little bit hard to differentiate. Not a huge issue, but it is something I thought I'd mention because it's in certain rooms they're easier to differentiate than others, I've noticed. But other than that, I think that the art and components are stellar in this game. Very, very well done. All right, now to the game itself. It is a design that I think does, to some extent, show its years, okay? And that is in a couple of different ways. Number one is that there is a high luck factor in the game. There's no doubt about it. Anytime you are rolling dice to the extent that you are in this game, there is going to be a high luck factor. But there are some interesting twists that are added that I think make it still stand as a game that I would particularly say stands out a bit from earlier designs, earlier games from earlier time periods. Number one is the idea of the buyout. I think that that's very clever. Putting the buyout into the kitty to help you roll less dice. It's a bit of a risk because if you obviously don't win that round, that's lost. But if you think you're in a position to win, it's a calculated risk because you may get that right back. You may get what you've put in to buy out right back if you can keep yourself in a position to be the last one in. So I like that little kind of twist. The financial incentives, I think, is a neat kind of interaction point between the players at the table, and it's another way to kind of lead to some of that metagaming and table talk where you can try to goad other players into rolling more dice by offering them money. It might be in their interest to do so if they feel like, gosh, I really don't know that I'm going to win this round. I'll just go ahead and take a sure 10, 12 nuggets right now, against the hope of maybe winning this whole thing. So I like that. The pitfall tokens, I believe that's what they're called. The kind of, those are a neat little aspect of the game too that also add some little wrinkles to make it more than just a roll and move. And quite honestly, in most roll and move games, you're trying to be the first to get somewhere. And I like the little twist in this game where you're trying to be the last. And the number of dice you roll is going to be dependent upon your player position. And that player position is continually changing throughout the round, so that if you're in first place now, you're only if you're the closest to the mine, you're only rolling one die. But if someone overtakes you, then they're going to be the first player and they're only rolling one die. And I like that kind of back and forth of player positioning being important. I think that is a nice element of the game. It gives it a good feeling of pace and tempo as well. So a design that does feel a bit of its age. Pretty large amount of luck, roll and move as a central mechanism. All of those are things that could be turnoffs to especially modern hobby gamers. But I'm going to give this game a 7 out of 10. I'm still going to recommend it because even with those things, I think that there are enough twists to those formulas. And quite honestly, I am absolutely charmed by the aesthetics, the look, the theme. I think all of it works very well. And I also kind of like that someone who will say, oh, this is just a roll and move, or that's just a roll and move. I can say, hey, you know what? Here's a roll and move that you may actually like. There are not many. There are a couple of other roll and moves that I actually enjoy. They're not generally newer designs, but not all roll moves are mindless. And I think this is one that has some nice decisions, some nice little tweaks to the formula. And so 7 out of 10 for Silvermine from me. All right, that'll do it for me. This is Mike DiLisio signing off from the Dice Tower Midwest Annex.